This is episode 279 of the Real Me and a movie podcast. On this week's episode, Chase and Joel will take a look at the sequel to the modern Godzilla franchise known as Godzilla, King of the Monsters, as well as go over some movie news such as the winners of the 2019 Cannes Film Festival, and go over some movie trailers that dropped throughout the week, such as Pixar's Onward, Lionsgate's Rambo, The Last Blood, and Warner Brothers' new film, The Kitchen. All that and more on today's Reel Me In. What is going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, the movie podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and if you are new to the show, welcome. Hopefully you will stick around and you will listen up to us two yokels, just spitting away at the movies and reviewing stuff and just talking about stuff and just talking about the one thing that we really love in life, which is everything in the film industry. So so if you're new, hopefully you can stick around. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This is episode 279, as stated at the top, and we will be going over Godzilla, King of the Monsters, as well as movie news and movie trailers up at the top of the show. But before I throw it over to my co-host over there, if you guys could share this podcast around, favorite, do what you guys have to do to let people know this is your favorite movie podcast to listen to, and we love doing it for you guys. I am never alone in this journey, this movie conversation. I always like to go we like to hold hands and skip down the yellow brick road. It is a fun visual, especially if you know what Joel and I look like. So, Joel, what is going on over there? It is another week of our glorious show, and it's the end of May. It's actually June 1st today, but Godzilla came out on May 31st, so we're getting into a new month. Can you explain to me why time is moving by so fast and why we're going to be 50 in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm still back in February.
Okay. I was just making sure. You're speaking as if it's mid-January, but now it's February. It makes more sense now.
I'm so excited to see Glass. I don't know. I just I just wanted to pick. I was actually about to choose a movie that came out in January 2018, and then I had a brain fart and forgot all of them. So anyway, just to go farther back with the joke.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird. It's strange that time is moving so quickly. I can't believe it's June already. I can't believe we're here. It's insane. We're deep into summer now in terms of movie releases, excited to talk about this week's movie. So it'll be interesting. Also, skipping down the street, both of us. I think that eventually you would just basically throw me into the air.
Right.
People,
if you guys don't know, I'm 4 times bigger than Joel is. Joel is a normal human body. I am something that would be around in a circus. And so us skipping along any type of pathway, he's totally right. I take 80-foot strides, and so he would be lagging behind, dragging his feet on the ground. It would be hilarious. So
I'm 5'2", he's 8'6". It's
right,
it's
8'6".
It's crazy. He's actually Chase is actually, I think, at least currently, there's another person I knew from back in school who is probably taller than you now, but of people that I know now, you are the tallest. You tower over everybody else. It's insane. So
yeah, it's quite intimidating for people, but it's listen, I'm not that person, so don't be scared now. How was your week? I know that you had to survive the Memorial Day sale at your job, but
oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it actually wasn't so bad. It was. And I didn't work on Friday or Monday of the sale. I'm off on Fridays, and I rarely work Mondays, so that's kind of nice. Apparently, we did pretty well, but we did drop a little from last year. That happens though sometimes. Just kind of depends on people's plans.
Well, right, because
every Memorial weekend.
Yeah, July 4th, those are outdoorsy type of holidays and vacations. So people are not in town.
Yeah, it's not a hard hitter like Labor Day weekend. Yeah, Labor Day weekend's more busy for us, and then obviously Black Friday is insane. But But yeah, it was pretty good, and I got some 4K stuff. So
Oh,
or
look
some
at you.
yeah. So
What'd you get?
I got Alien.
Oh,
I got
yes.
Die Hard and Peter Jackson's King Kong, which I did not know was on 4K until I saw it on our shelf. So that was a nice little get. Yeah, it was, and they were all pretty good prices. They didn't start super high, and so they dropped to something that was pretty reasonable. I didn't have to empty my entire wallet to get them. So, and plus it's buy two get one free on used stuff. And they were all used, so it was cool. Yeah. I haven't watched any of them yet. I do plan to watch Alien pretty soon because I hear that one looks like it was made this year because of the transfer that they did. So can't wait to do that. But yeah, that was basically it. Otherwise, kind of a not a super eventful week. But yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Just watched a bunch of movies.
Right. Same.
Catching up with stuff from early in the year and all of that.
Yeah. My week was the same. You know, this coming week is gonna be ridiculous, and I'll reveal that to you guys here in a second. But yeah, on Tuesday we saw Ma, and then Wednesday we saw Yesterday, so that was fun. But yeah, for Ma, it was. I swear to you, Joel, every time when I go to like these advanced screenings now, and you've been to some of them before, I swear to you, the group of people that I see them with, because it's usually a mixture of press people, maybe contest winners, and just the normal public. So it's a mishmash of everybody. But these people around us were watching it as if they've never seen a horror film before. And now you guys know that I say this all the time. Like people just over exaggerate and get super hyped up and stuff in theaters, and it's just funny to watch. Like there was this one guy in the row in front of me and like to the left. Every time when Octavia Spencer would do something just purely wacky in the film, he would be like, "Oh my God!" as if he's never seen a movie. And so his reaction, because I typically don't like people talking, but the movie was whatever. So I honestly didn't mind. But this guy was losing it, and his joy made me like the film just a little bit more. But quite an experience for sure. And then
I hope that his discovery of light and sound went well.
That's what I thought. I was like, he was born literally today or yesterday. Like, so it's that guy was having a hoot. Yeah, that was a fun little experience. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on Ma, yeah, the mini review should be somewhere on the podcast playlist. It should be the video or the podcast previous. And then Wednesday, we saw Yesterday. There is no embargo on it, so I can talk about it. I loved it. And you guys will get a full in-depth review probably because I'm not going to drop this one early like I normally do. I'm actually going to wait until the week of release, so maybe that Monday, the Monday before it's released, so 4 days before it hits theaters, that's when I'll drop it. So the end of the month, absolutely love it. One of my, I would say, comfortably a top 10 right now of the year so far, and it could last all the way until Joel and I do the mid-year report. So I don't know how people are going to react to it, but it's so charming and so delightful and absolutely hilarious. There's one bit with Google that had me rolling every single time they went to it, because you knew it was coming. Every time when something would come up and this character goes to Google, you knew what was going to happen.
Okay.
But it was facial reaction, the joke that was delivered in that little segment. It's just everything worked about it. But yeah, absolutely love it. But
I can't wait.
I think you'll. I think you'll. Are you? We don't really ever talk about music that much. Are you a big fan of the Beatles?
I'm a fan. More casually than say Elton John. I saw Rocket Man this week. More casually than somebody like Elton John or Queen, but certainly a fan. I can't say that I dislike any of their songs. I haven't heard every single album. I'll just say that. So I haven't heard every single song.
The gentleman that plays the main character, the one that writes all these Beatles songs, because in this world the Beatles never existed. His voice is phenomenal. Like,
oh, really?
He sounds just like McCartney, and it's divine.
Well, this on that topic, because I saw another movie about a major rock star. Taron Egerton in Rocket Man. The voice that he uses is amazing. It's
Oh, I can't wait.
exactly like Elton John. And I kept thinking about these videos. I think that they're for GQ, the GQ YouTube channel, where there's an accent expert who kind of examines a bunch of accents and determines whether or not they're accurate. They're great videos. They're really fun. He has a genuinely insightful perspective and uses a lot of very scientific terms that I don't get, and it's really really cool. I kept thinking about his thing and a lot of stuff that he would say about supposedly accurate impersonations, and given what he said, I can't really notice anything wrong with it. He has a slightly different accent than Elton, and he nails that both in his speech and in his singing, which is really hard to do. There's a very specific way that Elton John sings, and he does it in such a way that his songs sound weird coming from anybody else who doesn't have his voice. And so, even though they're not, typically his lyrics, they're Bernie Taupin's. It's very much Elton John, and so you develop an ear. What does it sound like? And it's good movie. I liked it, but his performance is amazing. And
that's what I've been hearing is that even with some people that are just like, oh, it was fine or it was a little good, like everyone, I haven't heard one bad word about his performance.
Well, what a really good thing is, of course, we're not here to review Rocket Man, but what the good thing here is that it's a musical, not just a biopic with music performances like Bohemian Rhapsody was. There's not just he goes on stage and that's when you hear the songs. The first number that we hear actually is a deep cut. It's "I Want Love" from the early 2000s, and that was famous because it was a music video featuring Robert Downey Jr. only months after he got out of jail. He had not done anything to recoup his image at that point, and Elton John wanted him because of the similarity of their stories. And so it's a really good music video, but it's not a song that everybody would just go like, oh yeah, that's an Elton John song. But it's the first one, and all of like young Elton in the beginning of the movie, and then all of his family members sing the lyrics of the song. And because of the fact that they're all very different people and distinctively so, the lyrics take on a different meaning for each of them as they sing it. So it's really good in that way too. And it obviously takes some of the big hits: Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting, Crocodile Rock, the title track, Rocket Man, all absolute blockbuster events. And it's a good movie. It's a good movie. And I like it's a little typical, biography facts, but the way they do it is good, and so yeah, worth seeing for sure.
Yeah, I'm seeing it tomorrow morning, so I'm
nice.
Super stoked for that.
I saw it in IMAX, and it was great.
My God, that in IMAX. Yeah. This is the first time in a while where I actually have seen all the new releases, and there was 3 of them this weekend. So, because I already saw Moss, saw Godzilla, and now Rocket Man tomorrow. So, man, this is just this is wild. Hollywood, stop doing this. You're gonna make me go broke. So yeah, that was my week in in movies, and then next week, oh man, I think after next week I might take a break because Monday we have Dark Phoenix, Tuesday we have Secret Life of Pets 2, and then Thursday we have The Last Black Man in San Francisco. So yeah, we're gonna be dead. And I think I told my fiance, I was like, besides Men in Black International, I don't want to accept any more the following week just because I want to take a break a little bit and actually go home after work. So, so you guys will get a mini review of The Secret Life of Pets 2, and then The Last Black Man in San Francisco will be the following week because that's when it releases with Late Night as well. So you guys will get both of those. But a couple things before we move on. One kind of cool thing and one slight criticism. It's actually constructive, but it's just funny the way it was worded. So the slightly exciting thing is that I finally put this podcast on Google Podcasts. So because this is the first episode that's going to be, all of them are on there right now, but this is going to be like the first like new one on there. after the recording. So if you're listening on Google Podcast, let me know how it is, because Joel and I have iPhones, so we'll never get to know how that interface works, because you have to have an Android and have to go to the Google Play Store. So yeah, but it's very exciting indeed to be on another platform. And I don't know if people actually listen to it on there, but we will see. And the funniest thing that happened this week, because if there's always like a dumb comment or some type of comment that makes me laugh on my YouTube channel or this podcast, I gotta tell you guys, and I don't ever mean it in like a mean way. It's just when people comment stuff, I read it in a certain voice, and it makes me chuckle. So on our John Wick episode, which obviously was not a YouTube comment because it was that was copy striked. So thank you for that, Lionsgate. This one was on Castbox, and it was hilarious. This guy put as a comment, he was like, 42 plus minutes into the John Wick review and still no John Wick. I'm out of here. And so the way he said, I'm out of here, I just imagine like, he's just like, I'm out of here, man. I'm done. But yeah, believe it or not, I think it's actually constructive, because I've been wanting to put time codes in for the longest time. And also, I say at the very top within the first 10 seconds of the show what is in the show. So I don't know what this guy was expecting. He could have just scrubbed through it. But scrubbing through it, I realize, is a hassle. So I will definitely look into keeping track of where Joel and I start and end segments, and put time codes. But, we'll see. Obviously not today and stuff, because I got something to do after we record. But, maybe next week or something. So, okay. So that is it for the opening. And so let's begin the show. So some trailers dropped this week, which is funny because usually Joel has the heavy load throughout the week and has all these bits of movie news to go through. It's the opposite this week. He literally has nothing to talk about. I have 6 trailers to talk about, so let's do this. I'm going to go in order of release. So the first trailer is from A24, and this one is called In Fabric. Now, this one is a haunting ghost story set against the backdrop of a busy winter sales period in a department store, and follows the life of a cursed dress as it passes from person to person with devastating consequences. Yes, you heard that right, a cursed dress. It kind of reminds me of, not in terms of style, but just kind of like this weird horror, almost like comedy with Joel. Velvet Buzzsaw, the one about the killer art with Jake Gyllenhaal. This one's about a killer dress, and I kid you not, there's one scene where or one shot with this dress that's just floating in the air. And the main character, it cuts back to her, and she's just like, she's horrified. And I don't know whether to be terrified or laugh, but I will tell you this. The overall tone and vibe that I got is almost David Lynch-like, where it's this surreal type of nightmare in the way it was kind of shot and edited. So I actually kind of dig that. I know, movies like David Lynch movies are not for everybody. But I actually really enjoyed this trailer. It's weird. It's offbeat. It's just that right type of like weird horror where I'm not turned off by it, but I'm willing to kind of go see it and see if it can kind of yo-yo me back and forth between being terrified and kind of laughing a little bit. And also it has style to it. So I really do appreciate that, though. So this one is In Fabric, and it comes out, if my phone will stop acting up, hold on. Guys, this is the problem with IMDb. It's got a few more festivals to go to, but it does say it's going to open up in the UK on June 28th, and I'm assuming maybe something after that. So who knows? It might be a fall title. But I will say, if you're into that the kind of weird side of horror, I think you should give this one a shot.
It played at Diff, but the only time was at midnight.
Joe, we should have went.
No, but I think that you can agree with me that because of some of the inhabitants of your house, we probably wouldn't have been able to
Yeah.
do that without waking up the entire neighborhood. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do want to see that. I've heard different things about it, but mostly ones that interest me.
Right. And
So
so I just have to reiterate, if you were not in to kind of like surreal nightmare type of horror, it's probably not for you. Because like I said, I'm one of those weird people that like those type of movies. So, just take a look at it if you want to. The next one that released is The Goldfinch. Now, this one is based on a book, and this one stars. Hold on here. I'm operating with one hand on my phone here. Ansel Elgort, Finn Wolfhard, Sarah Paulson, Nicole Kidman, Luke Wilson, Jeffrey Wright, who's that? Ashley Cummings, and Oaks Fegley. Is that how you pronounce it, Joel?
yeah, he's from Wonderstruck.
Right. So it's nice to see him back. And this has got a whole stat cast. I'd be here all day talking about it. But this one tells a story about a boy in New York, and he is taken in by a wealthy Upper East Side family after his mother is killed in a bombing at a Metropolitan Museum of Art. And the boy in question grows up to be Ansel Elgort. The mother that was in the bombing is Nicole Kidman. So we kind of see, if I never read the book or anything.
Did you say the title yet?
Yeah, The Goldfinch.
Oh, okay. I thought that was what it was, but
right. This is kind of told from the perspective of like older Ansel Elgort as he's telling his story of him growing up and then having this relationship with his mom and then suddenly being alone because of what happened to his mom and just kind of seeing him go throughout life. And it looks really, really good. And the best thing about it is Roger Deakins. He shot this thing, and it is gorgeous. But do you expect anything less? The guy finally won an Oscar after 20,000 years, and so the Academy recognizes it. We've been recognizing it for years, and so it's nice to see him kind of do more of a drama potent story rather than like a thriller or like an action film. Like he's
or
doing
a Western,
or like a Western. Like he's doing something a little bit more quiet and letting the actors and the story and the dialogue speak for themselves. But his beautiful cinematography is just a nice little extra element to the scene, and so you're going to be probably sucked in by the story and the characters, but also have this really great visual eye candy and lighting that just really, takes it to the extra level there. And so I really enjoyed this trailer. I can't wait for it. It comes out September 13th, and it is from Warner Brothers. Between this one and one of the other trailers I'm about to talk about, they had a pretty good week with trailers. So The Goldfinch, very good trailer indeed. And now, the trailer that I know that Joel was looking forward to, he doesn't like to admit it on live air like this, but 47 Meters Down Uncaged finally dropped its trailer, and it is the sequel to 47 Meters Down, a film that I quite enjoyed, and I actually think has a more disturbing ending than people are letting on. She died. And so this one, when Joel and I talked about the sequel, which seems like 5 years ago, we thought it was going to be 48 meters down because that's what they were going for. And we're like, okay, that makes sense. But then they reversed it at the last second, and now it's 47 meters down uncaged. Why? That makes no sense to me, and it sounds stupid. But this one stars Sylvester Stallone's daughter and Jamie Foxx's daughter, so that's an interesting combo. And it's pretty much the same story. You don't really need me to go too far into depth into it. This isn't something where I'm going to be like riveted by the wonderful dialogue or the great character development. It's like, listen, if you can make a really fun shark movie, I'm there. I do honestly like the first one quite a bit, so who knows? And I still will say to to this day until they shut down or if they come after me with a cease and desist letter. Entertainment Studios Motion Pictures is the one behind this again. I still think this is a front for tax evasion. There's no way that someone thought that it was a good idea to name it the most like generic, like kind of head scratching name possible. Think about it. Entertainment Studios Motion Pictures sounds like the type of place that someone would be like, yo, we need a place to launder money. Can we please use this movie studio and we'll name it this? No one will ever know. No, you're giving your whole plan away because it sounds stupid. But no,
it sounds like the kind of place where whenever somebody pitches the idea of distributing it through them or making a movie through them, they whisper it to somebody else. They're like, "We'll give it to Entertainment Studios Motion Pictures," and then they meet with the person in charge, and he says, "Yeah, we'll take your movie," or something like that.
It's another shark movie. Okay, the first one made a crap ton of money. Yeah, which he actually did. That's why they're making a sequel. But it is what it is. I will see it if we get an invite. So there we go. I'll leave it at that. And these next three, I am looking forward to quite a bit, and I want to know actually what you guys think about the last one. Because a lot of people are comparing it to another movie studio. The third trailer, or the third to last trailer that dropped this week, is The Kitchen. Now, this is something that Joel and I have been talking about for ages now. We talked about in the summer movie preview. We're looking forward to it quite a bit. This one is from Warner Brothers. And this one tells the story of three wives of New York gangsters in Hell's Kitchen in the 1970s as they continue to operate their husbands' rackets after they are locked up in prison. Wait, this sounds like Widows. I'm just not realizing this. So that's funny. This one stars Elizabeth Moss, Tiffany Haddish, Melissa McCarthy, Donald Gleason, Common, Margot Martindale, James Badge Dale. Like this cast is stacked. And it's from Andrea Berloff, and she wrote and directed this film. She was nominated for a screenplay Oscar for Straight Outta Compton, so this is her kind of big directorial movie. She adapted this movie because this is based on a DC Vertigo comic line. And that's kind of all the information I got. But this is going to be more of a drama for Haddish and McCarthy, and they kind of need that right now to kind of cleanse the palates of their, comedy stylings a little bit, hit the reset button, do something different, and then, kind of go back to it. And, if you stay on one type of style of acting for too long, it becomes stale, and you start to question whether you want to keep watching this person. It's the same problem I had with Kevin Hart. And when he did The Upside, he was fine in The Upside, but it did show me he had quite a bit of potential range, and, that's good. That's what I want to see. This one shows Tiffany Haddish and Melissa McCarthy, which Melissa McCarthy, she's already really great in dramas, but when you do stuff like The Happy Time Murders and you really disappoint me, gotta question your choices a little bit. But this looks great. It reminds me of like I don't want to say like a Goodfellas movie, but or a Scorsese film, but it does have that kind of vibe to it. It looks really nice. The characters look like they're having fun, but also going to have some depth. Not just going to be like these one note type of people, and it just looks great with Moss, McCarthy, and Haddish being a trio. You would never expect that. You would never piece those parts together. But when you see them on screen, you kind of see how they interact. It works. And so I'm excited to see it. It looks like it could spawn off into multiple movies if it is very successful. Because if it is based off of a Vertigo DC line, that means there's multiple stories to tell, so that kind of gets me excited. If you can make this a good movie, I would love to jump on this as a franchise and be like, yes, please give me more. But a really cool gangster type of movie with these three actresses in it, sign me up. So a movie that we always knew was coming. I'm glad that we were both excited about it. And when the trailer dropped, I was really happy when it ended. So, yeah, this couldn't get here sooner. So August 9th is when this one drops. The Kitchen should be quite fun. And the last two are more teaser trailers. This next one is Rambo: Last Blood. This one comes from Lionsgate, and of course it is the fifth film in the franchise of Rambo. You had the first three, which they were actually called First Blood Part 2 and First Blood Part 3, right?
I think it was First Blood, then Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Oh, okay.
Then Rambo 3, then Rambo.
Right. In the fourth one...
There you go.
Yeah. Very, very clever. In the fourth one, Rambo, I actually saw in theaters, and I was I was blown away by, like, first of all, how they got away with all those kills and stuff, because it was one of the most violent movies I saw that year for sure. But it was entertaining as hell to watch, so I really enjoyed it. I'm not like some Rambo fan, and I embarrassingly will admit that I have not seen the first three. I only saw that fourth one. So I don't have a deep connection to this franchise, but Rambo Last Blood goes down like this. Sylvester Stallone, maybe he had like some time off. He went to the theaters in March 2017. He left the theaters that day. He went to go see his producing partners, and he was like, "Hey guys, I saw this movie with Hugh Jackman. It was called Logan. I really enjoyed it. We should make a new Rambo movie like this. You really think that's a good idea?" And so they're just like, "Yeah, it sounds like a great idea," because it was nominated for an Oscar and it made a lot of money. And it was a good movie. I'm not even joking. Rambo Last Blood, that whole trailer reminded me of Logan, and it's like old man Rambo. I will read the plot to you guys, but I don't really think no one really cares. Rambo must confront his past and unearth his ruthless combat skills to exact revenge in a final mission. A deadly journey of vengeance. Rambo Last Blood marks the last chapter of the legendary series. And the people that he's got to go kill, I believe it might be Mexicans. Not really entirely sure about that, but I think it is, because I think someone brought that up on Twitter. They're just like, man, with all this like political landscaping and political talk going on, it's very weird to see John Rambo like slaughter a bunch of people from Mexico. And so regardless of that, it does look like a good movie. Once again, I don't have a deep tie to it. It looks like a Western. It looks like it's following the Logan footsteps. I don't find that to be a problem. I just think it's funny that it's pretty much like that. But I will give Sylvester Stallone credit that being at his age, it is still impressive that he can even walk, let alone punch people in a scene and not be tired. So I will give him that. And the last Rambo was entertaining enough to where I will want to see this. I'm not like jumping up and down out of my seat for this, but I will say what I saw, I quite enjoyed. Not my favorite trailer of the week, but it's fine.
I've only seen the first one and I barely remember it, so I'll
probably
I think that this is probably going to be the thing we review,
which is probably the case.
Yeah, so I'll likely have to catch up with them. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so I mean, it's one of those things where like we're not gonna be super stoked to watch, but hey, maybe this will be fantastic. We have no idea. That's the thing I always love doing about these episodes, that we honestly have no idea what's going to happen. Joel just gives me a list of movies and he's like, just pick one, and we go boom, boom, boom. We're like, all right, we just rolled the dice. Hopefully all those are good. So yeah, the last trailer, which I mean, Joel didn't watch it, so I can't get his take on it, but maybe he has seen tweets kind of announcing this kind of problem they have with it. But the next one is Onward, and is the teaser trailer from Pixar, their newest film. It comes out March 6th of next year, so it's actually only, at this point, about 9 months away. That's pretty quick, actually. Usually they drop the teaser trailers about a year out. So this will definitely play in front of Toy Story 4 in a couple weeks. That's why they dropped it. And this one is set in a suburban fantasy world. Two teenage elf brothers embark on a quest to discover if there's still magic out there. Now, that doesn't really explain much. So the way the trailer is set up is that they're, elves and wizards and Earth used to be like this place of just like magic and fantasy. And then it started to become more of like a suburban area, but there's still elf characters, there's still wizard characters, and they're just interacting in a world like ours. So that's kind of the whole setting of the movie. And the main voice cast, you have Tom Holland playing the main character. He's like the little brother. And then Chris Pratt plays like the older brother. Julia Louis-Dreyfus plays their mother, I believe. And Octavia Spencer is in the movie. She just was not in the trailer, so I have no idea who she voices. So not really much to go off of. Just more of setting the atmosphere, ambiance, tone, setting, and just showing you, hey, this movie's coming out. This is what it looks like. Let's go. I honestly have no issue with the trailer. I think it looks really fun. It could be one of the better Pixar movies in a while, where it's not a sequel or a prequel. It's something new and refreshing, and it looks like it could be really epic. A lot of people on Twitter are comparing the animation to a Dreamworks movie. I can see where they're coming from because of the characters in the trailer. The settings, like the home and the environment, like the grass, the trees and stuff, is it up to the same level as like The Good Dinosaur, where like the environmental photorealistic setting of that is just mind-boggling good? No, but it still paints like a good picture of what this movie is going to look like and set itself in. So I don't really see it as an issue because, yes, is Pixar at this like high standard that we hold them to? Sure. As long as you can deliver a good story with great characters and just make it a really great film for not only kids, but adults as well, then you've done your job. That's what Pixar does really well. And it sounds like this is going to be definitely having the playfulness for kids, but I think this is going to be a really kind of self-discovery type of quest and journey that these two characters are going to go on, and it actually might bring up some really interesting kind of self-reflections that adults can take away from this. So I see the potential in it. I understand why people might compare it to a DreamWorks movie. It doesn't bother me that much. Maybe they're still rendering stuff out. Maybe it'll look better by the time of release. So, I mean, we're still 9 months out. You never know, but I still enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see like an original Pixar film. That's why I'm excited. So my favorite trailer of the week, before I throw it over to Joel, because I would like to know what his thought process is on that. I think I would have to go. I can't decide, so I'm gonna go with both of the Warner Brothers movies, Goldfinch and The Kitchen, and then followed by a honorable mention from In Fabric, because it just looks like it's just crazy, absolutely insane. So Joel, when you hear the teaser trailer for Onward, because I know we've talked about this movie before, and you hear people on Twitter comparing the animation to a DreamWorks movie, like what do you think about that?
That's interesting. I mean, certainly I think that there's a gap between at least sometimes the quality of DreamWorks animation and the quality of Pixar's, but I think that it's narrowing. So maybe people just have a short-term memory in terms of the quality. I don't know. I mean, obviously I haven't seen it. I may watch this. I'm certainly looking forward to a new original Pixar movie. I know that there was that rumor that they're going to try to shift toward original movies and away from sequels. Apparently, Toy Story 4 is going to be the last one for a while, so that's cool, and I'm excited for that. From the premise sounds neat. I like the fact that they've got the Peters together, Peter Quill, Peter Parker. That's fun. In terms of the controversy, I don't know. I'm gonna have to see the trailer to really have
Do you
any
think
sort of thought on it.
just for like scientific purposes, so we can like maybe I can get your take on it, because you're going to be seeing Toy Story 4 in a couple weeks. Like, maybe could you watch that teaser trailer? Let me know, and then just stay away from the full trailer.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, because I want to know like what you think, because the whole DreamWorks thing is like it's a shot below the belt. It's like, can we chill on that comparison a little bit? Like that's a little harsh. So
if they said blue sky, it would be even more.
Oh my god!
So, but
can you imagine? And then just real quick, I forgot to mention, because you mentioned Tom Holland and Chris Pratt. They are wonderful as voice actors. Like I love their voices coming out of these characters, and they have such an innocence to them, and just really this kind of like energy that a lot of people don't really portray in sound booths. And I felt that with Tom Holland and Chris Pratt, and I feel like they're the perfect duo to take us on this journey. So yeah, it's really great voice casting.
All right, folks. I think in terms of what I'm most interested in from what you talked about, probably the Goldfinch, because that's a really popular book. So apparently it's great. I haven't read it, but I've heard pretty great things about it.
As Joel knows, the only reading material that I ever read growing up were grocery store coupons and Mad Magazine. So that's the extent.
That's true.
Yeah, it's the extent of my reading knowledge. So I
told him to read something whenever we were together for the week of the film festival, and then he screamed and ran out of the room. So
it's true. I threw it at Joel, and he went unconscious for 7 days, and then he woke up to do the podcast. So,
yep, didn't see anything. All right. So I only have two things to talk about in the news this week. In terms of casting, the only really significant thing that happened was the fact that Robert Pattinson officially signed on to play the Batman, but we talked about that already. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the fact that they are once again Disney was once again doing a live-action remake of one of their movies, and it's going to be Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, one of their best films, I think. And in this case, can you believe it, Chase? They've picked a white man to direct it.
Yeah, that was the first thing that crossed my mind, for sure.
No, well, I mean, they've never not picked one. It's Mark Webb, who, of course, kind of took the indie world by storm with 500 Days of Summer, really good movie, and then tried to reboot the Spider-Man franchise. Didn't go so well. But now Disney looks at The Amazing Spider-Man 2 and is like, I want to get the director of that to make this. So he's going to do that. And so once again, like Aladdin, new songs are going to be written by Benj Pasek and Justin Paul. Okay, and then the screenwriter's Aaron Cressida Wilson, who's a big name in screenwriting. That's cool. I mean, again, I think I'm tired of these. I'm tired of these. Whatever. I don't have any thoughts. I'm sad, dying, and alone. I'm just kidding, Chase.
Dang, the live action movies did that much damage to you? I've slowly recovered from Aladdin, but it seems like you need to be hospitalized.
I have lost all faith in humanity. No, it's not that bad. But I just don't know. Are they going to get regular sized people to do the thing with the hobbits?
Oh God, that's gonna don't do that. Don't do that.
I don't want them to do that. But I'm just saying, Peter Dinklage, I'm sure would love to play one of them. Just do that. Great. Okay.
Ooh, maybe like Warwick Davis needs to do one.
Warwick Davis. Oh
yes.
Man, yeah. Warwick Davis and Peter Dinklage together. And I was about to say his name, and then I realized that he passed. Vern Troyer would have been perfect for
Oh,
something like
yes,
this.
he
Yeah,
would.
really, really sad. But there's a couple. Tony Cox. What's that other guy? He was in Project X. Martin something. Martin Kleba, I
Oh,
think
yeah,
is his
yeah,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, he's fun. Not in Project X, but he's fun in other things. I just remember him being in that. There's some actors you can get for those roles. Just don't do regular sized people. Superimposed against other bigger people. Anyway, it didn't really work very well for The Hobbit or for Snow White and the Huntsman, which is where they did that too. But yeah, anyway, hopefully it's better than Snow White and the Huntsman. Let's just say that. Hopefully it's more along the lines of Mirror Mirror. Anyway, this one is interestingly enough in the public domain, so I'm surprised they hadn't done that yet. But of course, it's going to be a direct remake of their movie, so that one hasn't been done yet. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Do you have any thoughts? Are you tired of these two? Are you looking forward to this at all?
I think it's funny that you brought that up because that was my first thought was, oh, wow, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 did so well critically and all that stuff. Yeah, let's hire that guy.
It won Best Picture.
Yeah, I guess in their minds it did. Yeah, I like Mark Webb. I'm not one of these like full-on haters of him. Yeah, he's made a very terrible end to the second incarnation of that franchise, but Amazing Spider-Man was whatever. And then 500 Days of Summer is an indie darling. Like I love that movie, and so he's a mixed bag, but maybe this is his chance to kind of redeem himself and kind of bounce back career-wise. That being said, I could not care less about this. I mean, this is one of those situations where after Aladdin, I told you guys I am burned out by these movies. I don't want to see any series. I don't want to see any like movies, TV movies. I don't want to see anything else based on these properties as live action. I cannot do it anymore. And so, I'm conflicted. I want him to bounce back, but this is just something I really don't care about. It'd be very odd if this was the first thing to win me over, after all the stuff that's been announced, because this is taking a different approach. But, yeah, I'm kind of like you. I think if The Lion King is just okay or like slightly good, I'm sure Joel and I will be jumping up with joy because we're like, oh wow, that was like 1,000 times better than Aladdin, and maybe we will get kind of anticipated for this, but I just don't care.
That's all I have to say. That sigh. All right, then the other piece of news I was going to talk about, it was kind of me just digging around because I couldn't really find anything that was very significant this week. It was dead. But I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk about the Cannes winners because the festival ended around the time we recorded last time, so hadn't really had time to see the winners and kind of let them stew and figure out what I'm looking forward to. But they were announced. I'm only going to go with the big seven, the top 7 awards that they give out. So you had the best screenplay went to Portrait of a Lady on Fire. This is set in the 18th century, and it follows a woman who hires some sort of doctor or nurse or somebody to take care of, I think, a child or multiple children, and of course they fall in love. So it won the Queer Palm, and it also won Best Screenplay from Celine Sciamma. She directed Girlhood a few years ago. Really good movie. Kind of took certain parts of the indie world by storm. If you haven't seen it, see that because it's really good. And then the Best Director award went once again, because they love him, to the Dardenne brothers, Jean-Pierre and Luc Dardenne, for their film Young Ahmed. This one is about a boy who basically plots to kill his teacher whenever he takes on a more extremist view of the Quran. Should be interesting because the Dardenne brothers, sort of like Asghar Farhadi, works in an area of drama that sort of hinges on thriller sometimes, doesn't quite go there. This definitely seems a little more genre-oriented than some of their other works. But I've seen a few of them. They're really good directors. 2 Days, One Night, L'Enfant, which means the infant, is particularly harrowing. Really good directors. So they won Best Director for that. That isn't surprising. I'm pretty sure they won Best Director for 2 Days, One Night back in 2014. So I think that they tend to like them. I'm sure that they've won another time too. So that was that award. Their Best Actor award went to Antonio Banderas, who was in Pedro Almodovar's new film Pain and Glory, which follows. Let's see. So, here it is. I'm going over there. All right. I'm going to read off the premises from here on out. So Salvador Mayo, a filmmaker in the twilight of his career, remembers his life, his mother, his lovers, the actors he worked with, the 60s in a small village in Valencia, the 80s in Madrid, the present when he feels an immeasurable emptiness facing his mortality, the incapability of continuing filming, the impossibility of separating creation from his own life, the need of narrating his past can be his salvation. That's the official premise. That's pretty poetic. I've heard it's Almodovar's best film in a while. People have felt like he's been kind of coasting by for his last few movies, although a lot of people liked Julieta a couple years ago. But I've been hearing this one's really good, so I'm looking forward to that. The Best Actress winner was Emily Beecham for a movie called Little Joe. This one is really interesting sounding. So it comes from director Jessica Hausner. I've seen one of her movies, a movie from a few years ago called Amour Fou, which was a romantic comedy set in the 1800s and was really charming in a very dry, very European way. This one, though, is different. It's a kind of sci-fi movie. It's about some engineered plant seeds that cause changes in other living creatures, and it's got alongside Beecham, who won Best Actress. It's also got Ben Whishaw and Carrie Fox. Also Kit Connor, who played the older of the two younger versions of Elton John in Rocketman. So really interesting movie there. Also Lindsay Duncan, who played the theater critic in Birdman. So really sounds very interesting. I'm hearing it's quite the sit. So I'm looking forward to that one. The jury prize, which is sort of one of the runners-up, actually had a tie this year. That doesn't always happen. The first one went to Les Miserables, which is another adaptation of the Victor Hugo novel, but not a musical adaptation. It's more along the lines of the 1998 version and the 1995 version. So that one won. And also this wild-sounding movie called Bakuro. And get a load of this premise. So Bakuro, a small town in the Brazilian suburb, I guess, mourns the loss of its matriarch Carmelita, who lived to be 94. Days later, its inhabitants notice that their community has vanished from most maps. That's a weird premise. I'm liking the sound of it, and I want to see this movie. I've been hearing actually it's one of the best movies at the festival. So yeah, really, really excited for that. The Grand Prix, which is the first runner-up, went to a movie called Atlantics. This is I think the debut directorial feature of an actress named Madi Diop. And this one, along the Atlantic coast, a soon-to-be inaugurated futuristic tower looms over a suburb of Dakar. Ada, played 17, is in love with Suleiman, a young construction worker, but she has been promised to another man. One night, Suleiman and his co-workers leave the country by sea in hope of a better future. Several days later, a fire ruins Ada's wedding, and a mysterious fever starts to spread. Little does Ada know that Suleiman has returned. I've been hearing it's pretty crushing. I've been hearing good things about that one. But the Palme d'Or winner, and that's the top prize at Cannes, goes to Bong Joon-ho, the director of Okja from a couple of years ago. And this one is called Parasite, and it was pretty unanimously considered the best movie of the festival. Everybody seems to be giving it 5 stars. And anyway, it's apparently being described as a kind of a cross between Shoplifters and a really crazy sci-fi movie. So obviously the Shoplifters comparison, gimme now. And the fact that it's a weird Bong Joon-ho movie, gimme now. So I've been hearing it's pretty amazing. Really funny and really subversive and also really devastating. So I'm excited to hear about all of these. I'm also very curious about some of these because, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood had its debut. It got a 7-minute standing ovation. The Dead Don't Die also showed, although it kind of had a more even keel reaction. Some people weren't huge fans of it. But the real story came from, and I don't know if you heard about this or followed this at all, but a movie called Mektub My Love Intermezzo. This one is from the director of Blue is the Warmest Color, and it's a 4-hour movie. Apparently, it's essentially not much more dignified than like basically porn, which is really interesting because of the reactions to Blue is the Warmest Color that came out after that movie was released. Also, we had the premiere of A Hidden Life, which is Terrence Malick's new movie. Who knows if that'll actually come out this year, but it did show. It's finished. Or it's at least as finished as Terrence Malick says it's finished for right now. We always know that he kind of he sometimes will, go back on that. But it's got a great cast, including August Deal, who played one of the soldiers that notices some cultural things that are incorrect about Michael Fassbender's behavior in Inglourious Bastards. The guy who notices the fingers. Anyway, he's in it. Matthias Schoenaerts, who of course was in stuff like Red Sparrow and A Bigger Splash, he's in it. Jürgen Prochnow, major actor there. Bruno Ganz, who once played Hitler, that's one of his last roles before he passed away last year. Really good cast, of course. That's what Malick's all about. He's about getting the people that are really talented. And this one he didn't use at all an American cast, but it's a big epic. It's almost 3 hours, set in 1943. It's about a conscientious objector who refuses to fight for the Nazis. So that's a really interesting story. Apparently, it's very much told through wartime letters, but it's also dictated by narrative in a way that some of Malick's previous recent movies are not. So really excited for that. That's pretty much it. There wasn't all that much movement surrounding some of these other movies, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see the really big ones. So that's it. That's all the news. But Chase, are you interested at all in some of those? Any of them spark your interest?
Yeah, the Antonio Banderas one for sure, and then Parasite. I've been hearing nothing but Parasite from the film festival, and I already know that you're looking forward to it. If you combine anything with Shoplifters, then you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going there opening day. So I'm looking forward to it, and of course the standing ovation to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood gets me excited because that's going to be here in less than 2 months now. That's wow, that's getting here. Yeah, it wasn't really a big film festival this year. It was just kind of like, yeah, it was there, and then it just left. Usually with Cannes, they have like 2 or 3 like big movies that like make a footprint at that festival, and just nothing really happened. Well, actually, I
will say
back.
Though that Parasite was the first Korean film to win, I believe, and it comes from second from like the East Asia area after Shoplifters last year won the Palme d'Or, and that was the first time I think that had happened. So pretty cool that 2 years in a row we get films from that region of the world win this big award. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's huge type of milestone. So yeah, good for them. It also wasn't the Lighthouse. Wasn't it at Cannes?
Yeah, that was at Cannes as well. That got some pretty good notices.
Yeah.
A lot of people were baffled by it. I know, which that's not surprising. So,
Well, a lot of people were baffled by the witch, so
Yeah.
it is what it is. It was really funny. Well, it isn't funny because this is a serious story, but as you were talking about it, I was like, wasn't that guy like in the news for how he treated the actresses and blue is the warmest color? And so when I was reading the newest one from Cannes, there's another controversial story about it and how he would give the actors alcohol so they could perform.
And it was when they were reluctant too, which is super sketchy.
Yeah, that's
pretty bad.
Yeah,
I have no interest. I have no interest in it.
After hearing about not only this story, but how he treated, because I already saw blue is the warmest color before that story, so I can't unsee it. But after I heard about that story and now this story, I don't want to watch this guy's movies anymore. It just everything seems really sketchy and gross. So I'm good.
Same here.
So I'm looking forward to anything that comes from that film festival. It's just the problem is Joel and I live here in the U.S. and it's hard to get some of these movies sometimes.
And in Texas, doubly.
Oh my God, yeah, right. It's even worse. So if they get near us and these movies kind of come around us, we'll definitely watch them. If I had to pick the one that's probably going to come here, is probably Parasite. After all the wind and the talk, it's going to definitely
of the not obvious ones.
Yeah, it's going to find a distributor for the U.S. It's going to come here. But
same
everything
thing
else,
with The Hidden Life because it's Malik.
Oh, that's true.
Same thing with Young Ahmed because it's the Dardenne. I can imagine that Portrait of a Lady on Fire will at least get something because Girlhood and Tomboy both opened in the U.S. That was Shyama's previous works. I haven't seen Tomboy. That was another one that kind of took Cannes by storm when it opened there. That was she pens and directs stories about queer voices, which is important. So, All right. So that's Cannes Film Festival for you from afar. Of course, we didn't see anything, but all right. So now we're going to shift into our week's review, which is Godzilla King of the Monsters. This one is a direct sequel to 2014's Godzilla, and it takes place about 5 years after. So, roughly. So the story here the human story, I should say, surrounds primarily the family of the Russells, father Mark, mother Emma, and the daughter Madison, played by Kyle Chandler, Vera Farmiga, and Millie Bobby Brown. They have also lost one of their own due to the San Francisco destruction of the previous movie, and now they've gone their separate ways. Dad's gone off to record sort of jungle predators rather than the big guys that showed themselves in the last movie, and the mom has gone on to do her research and perfect a device that allows for communication between humans and monsters. So meanwhile, she and Madison are kidnapped by an eco-terrorist played by Charles Dance, the great Charles Dance, who's always awesome, in order to save the world by any means necessary. But meanwhile, a rival doctor, Sarazawa, from the first film, played by Ken Watanabe, thinks that Godzilla holds the key. It just is a matter of finding him. So it's a pretty simple plot. I will go ahead and let Chase start his review. Chase, it's been an interesting period of anticipation for this movie because we, I think, had it at the top. Both did at the top of our list for the most anticipated for May. And in the past week, it's kind of gotten some critical backlash. So I'm interested to find out where you rest on this one, sir. Go ahead.
Right, and so when we were talking about the summer movie preview, we put this at the top of our list because we both love the 2014 Godzilla film. It was different than any other U.S. adaptation of this character. It was kind of a visceral film. It was beautifully shot. It held back on the Godzilla fights, which I actually think was good because then built up to this very climactic battle at the end, and it was satisfying. It was a good Godzilla movie, and a lot of people had it in their top 10 that year. It was one of those films that struck a chord with people. So we were excited for the sequel. With like Kong Skull Island, that came out 2 years ago, and I was okay with it. It's whatever. And so I knew the Godzilla sequel was coming out. And of course, next year we have Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, however they're going to say it. But that's going to be the next one. And so this is definitely a bridge movie where we have the first Godzilla movie, a Kong movie, and this is the bridge movie to get to the big battle monster movie. And so with all that, I mean, it sounds like it's going to be the best thing ever. And so, going into it, the trailers looked really great. I remember when that trailer dropped at Comic-Con last year, people loved that trailer. And this is before Joel stopped watching trailers. This is one of the ones that he saw, and we both really enjoyed it. So we're looking forward to it. So I saw the movie last night, and I gotta be honest, when I walked out of it for the first time, I thought it was just fine. But the more I thought about it, the more I don't really care for it, and I actually think it's a waste of time. It feels like a build-up movie to the big versus movie. I guess the best word to describe this one, empty. Everything about it was empty. There were definitely good things for sure. I'm not going to be one of these people that doesn't give everything a fair shot, because a lot of people are just like, this movie's awful, or this movie's great, and that's where they leave it. No. I will dive into specifics because this movie is not a complete failure. I don't want to ever watch it again, and as time passes on, I'll guarantee you I'll feel different tomorrow, and I'll probably go down even further. But I don't care about this one, and it's an empty film and void of any type of power that the first one had. And so, all right, I guess to start out with Michael Dougherty, because he's the director of this one. It's not Gareth Edwards who did the first one. I actually like Dougherty's movies. Trick or Treat's great. I actually like Krampus. So he's a director that I admire. I don't really think he was the right one for this. You could have gotten someone else to direct this movie. He had a vision for sure when it came to like the monster fights and setting up those fights, and even some of the composition of the cinematography was absolutely gorgeous. So I won't say that he didn't have any vision for that stuff. The human stuff it's kind of like whatever to me. I know a lot of people online are saying that the bad human elements are distracting and what make this movie bad. Guys, it's a monster movie. If you have characters in the humans that are passable and serviceable for the story to progress to the monster stuff, and I can slightly care about them, I'm cool with it. I'll let it pass. Is some of the acting stale / boring / kind of awful? Yeah, but I'm not going to be one of those ones that just say like, I needed a stronger human element to this. That is not the case. If you just make it serviceable for the story, then I'm cool with it. But they couldn't even make it serviceable. It felt like a very hollow movie when it came to the overall story and the characters, whether they be human or monster. I just felt like it was just a very hollow type of movie where, Dougherty will, have these human characters and the story will progress. We'll have these big revelations and stuff will happen. People will die. But I didn't really feel anything. Nothing was there that made me felt excited to watch this. I just felt like I was watching, hey, let's get through this movie so we can get through Kong versus Godzilla next year. The monster fights, some of the shots were really, really nice, really beautiful stuff. Some of the monster fights I thought got kind of boring. I don't know if that was supposed to happen. I don't think so, but Dougherty will like set up the monster fights to look somewhat cool, but as they kept going, I don't know, I just lost interest in them. And I don't know if it was because they went on for a little bit too long or they had too many fights in this one. Because maybe I'm one of those weird people that actually liked the first Godzilla movie because it didn't have that much fighting in it. It led up to the big fight at the end, and it made the journey more satisfying to those fights rather than the journey that we have in between each fight in this one, which is like maybe 20 minutes long, and then we get to the next fight. Like we have to rush through this stuff, just to get to the monster fight. Oh, the monster fight's done. All right, let's have this like 20, 30-minute pad right here. All right, let's get to the monster stuff. There was no time to breathe on anything. It was just kind of like we have to get through this as fast as possible so we can get to the number one complaint that people had on the first one, which was not enough fighting. So that's what it felt like Warner Brothers executives listening to people and fixing that situation by making everything else just seem kind of void of anything. So I didn't really think anything between the monster fights really mattered. It was just kind of like people going through motions and just telling us about the exposition or backstories without having any real like staying power behind the dialogue that they're saying. It's just kind of like, cool, monster fight, and now we're back to this person. All right, cool, someone's dead. Don't have time to think about that. Moving on. All right, boom, monster fight. It just, I don't know, everything about it just seemed really off to me, and it's nothing like the first one, and it's such a step down in that regard. So, hey, you fixed the number one complaint that people had about the first one. You added more fights to it, and I don't think that made the movie better. Some of the fights were cool. If you want to talk about it like on a nerd level, it's like, all right, Rodan, Mothra, yeah, that was really cool. But just as I was sitting there watching, because it's a longer movie, I felt bored by the end. I was just like, all right, cool. He's gonna fight Ghidra again for like the 8th time. Let's get this going. So yeah, I think what Dougherty had was a great great setup to his ideas. I just felt like the execution was just non-existent. So that's kind of how I feel about it. It's like almost like a mixed bag for me, for him, in terms of the way he executed his vision. I felt like it was there, but it just didn't really go anywhere. And I gotta mention something about the story, because a lot of people are, saying like all the human element, the characters are robots, they're stale, their line delivery is awful, it's boring. Yeah, to some degree, they're mostly right. But the actual reasoning behind releasing these monsters might be one of the most idiotic things I've heard in a big blockbuster movie in a while. Typically with movies like this, I don't expect anything groundbreaking, like some big twist. But the reasoning to release these monsters for the sake of the world, and the fact that Vera Farmiga was the one delivering that speech, I couldn't. I sat there, I had to rack my brain around what she just said. I was like, what did she just say? How does that make any sense? And even Bradley Whitford in the scene was just like, that doesn't make any sense. And so did Kyle Chandler. I was like, yeah, I kind of agree, man. I don't. What is she talking about? And that was also Charles Dance's character and his vision, his idea for how he sees the monsters. But I'm just like, what is? I don't know. Whatever. I guess that's a perfect segue into the acting. I didn't really like Millie Bobby Brown at all. I think Vera Farmiga was sleepwalking. I thought Kyle Chandler was sleepwalking. Every line of quote-unquote humor by Bradley Whitford was cringeworthy, and I hate using that word. Did not hit me on any type of humor level, even when it was someone else who attempted comedy. Not good. O'Shea Jackson Jr., why was he there? Sally Hawkins was there for a cool 10 minutes. Whoops, sorry, spoiler. Yeah, The acting to me, it was just I think everyone was sleepwalking. Joel does make a great point though. The great Charles Dance, that man can do whatever he wants, and I'm actually kind of jealous that Joel is starting his Game of Thrones run right now because now he's experiencing like the greatness that he's on that show. But his villain role in this movie is he's having fun, I guess, but it's just whatever. Okay, so all that's out of the way. So let's talk about the actual like monster fights, the CGI itself, and the way they're executed. You know, I did say earlier that some of them are kind of boring. They kind of drag on too long. Some of them happen at night. Can't really see too much that's going on. You know, it is what it is. But I just think adding all these monster fights in this movie did weigh the movie down because that was a lot of people's complaints. You know, I need more monster fighting. They added 6 or 7 battles in this one. You know, like I said, they just, you know, in terms of like how they were animated and maybe kind of pulled off, like execution-wise on a technical level, yeah, they were kind of cool, but, you know, just seeing it in the moment and playing in real time with the story, I did feel like there was way too many monster battles in this for me to even care about watching more of this franchise, which is a bummer. Like, as the movie kept going, I was just getting kind of bored with the notion that there is going to be more of these things. The actual CGI, I don't know if it's me, and maybe Joel has a different spin on it. Maybe he agrees with me. I have no clue. We haven't talked about this. It seems like the CGI is a little less than the first one. I don't know what it was about the way Godzilla looked, or like Ghidorah looked probably the best when it wasn't like close up to the camera. Like far away, it looked better than anything else. But like Mothra was fine. All these other creatures were fine. They're floating, you know, animations, you know, throughout the screen, and I get that. Like they're all going to have to be animated. That's a given. Some of them, to me, did not feel like they had like that weight or that power of that specific creature, and so when they were just roaming throughout the screen, they just seemed like this, you know, animated thing that we were watching. They didn't feel like real, you know, monsters that we were watching in this small little city that they're fighting in. I don't know. There was just something off about the CGI that just they didn't feel grounded enough for me to believe that they were there. They were just kind of there, and maybe, like I said, maybe I'm the only one that thinks this, but I thought the look of Godzilla looked a little worse than the first one, which is weird because the first one came out 5 years ago. You figured the technology would be a little better. Yeah, this is such a weird movie to talk about because on one hand, if you look at it overall, the movie itself is just fine. I don't even think it's enjoyable on a monster movie level. It's like, it was just fine to me. And then there's just so many elements about that I didn't really care for or slightly bad that I'm just like, this was such a wasted opportunity. And you waited 5 years for this. As we were going home last night, I actually thought it would have been better if you released this movie in 2017, 3 years after the original, and you released Kong Skull Island this year, and then do the Versus movie next year. That way, you have the setup, you have the sequel to the setup, and then it sets up like the potential of the third one. Then we do a palate cleanser with the prequel with Kong, and then we get to the Versus. That might have made more sense release-wise, but it is what it is. This is what we got. But the whole movie felt like this giant setup for the third movie while not really concentrating on making the second movie a good movie or like a good adventure, a fun ride. It felt like they just had to make this to set up for the possibilities of Kong versus Godzilla. So for me, it's an empty film. It's worthless. I'm not saying it's outright terrible because there are some great elements about this, and this is a movie that took a lot of effort and time to do, so I will not ever take that away from the filmmakers. So Joel, I'm kind of wrestling with this one. It's either like a C minus or D plus for me, and it's only because some of the execution of the fights and the CGI were good enough to where I can't say it was just an outright failure. I don't know, man. I'll reserve on my grade, but that's where I'm kind of at right now. I'm just kind of confused by my whole experience. I don't know whether I'm just okay with it or if I hate it or what. So I'm gonna let Joel speak on it now. Maybe he can bring up some stuff that I missed, and I'll think about my grade as he's talking.
Okay, so like Chase, I was excited for this. I mean, we talked about it in the summer preview. It was my most anticipated movie of this month, or last month, I guess now. So I certainly agree that the human story here is kind of a flat line. It's not very involving. It's basically just a pared down version of the story from the first one. There's a lot of very simple movements and motivations going on. Sort of the monster fights are the backdrop of the story. Maybe it should be the other way around. I don't know. Maybe that's what they think it is. Whatever the case, I don't know if they've perfectly gotten that mix right. But I like this movie. So, and Chase is probably like, "What? What's going on here?" So, we always feel like we need to disagree every so often because we agree a lot. Wouldn't you say?
I would say in the past, especially this year, we have agreed a whole lot more than we ever have.
Yeah, and so this is a case of basically me enjoying a movie for pretty much the most simplistic reasons that you can think of. For me, I'm going, and I'm going average Joe on this. Let's just say, I think that the human story, as much as it's kind of dull and it hinges on a really convoluted villain plan, and the human drama is kind of, very, very flat, very two-dimensional. I don't think it matters.
It really doesn't, and that's the one thing that you and I can agree on. And I said it at the top. I was like, I don't understand why people are complaining about like, oh, the human element is so weak. I don't go to these movies to watch a great human story. It'd be nice if they can put effort into it, but it's not something I'm looking into.
Right. I felt like they put just enough effort into it that it worked again as a framing.
Right, it's serviceable.
Yes, it frames all the fights, and the fights are where it's at for me. We disagree on how they're executed. So I totally get people's problems, I guess, with the color palette. I've had a problem with it in the past. I didn't have a problem with it here because I could tell what was going on. Now, I don't disagree that it's a dark color palette. I just don't think that it's an oppressively dark one that in any way impeded my ability to enjoy the action scenes. And I think that the action scenes have a lot more personality than people are giving it credit for, especially because the monsters have personality. I think that the visual effects, they're fine. They're fine in bringing them to life. I think that where they really succeeded was, and I didn't even know this until I looked it up a little bit, these are motion capture performances by actors. So
okay, that actually changes my whole perspective now because, yeah, like I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so you're getting, and you get three different actors for the three different heads of Ghidorah, who is the big three-headed monster here that's from outer space, and you also get three distinctive personalities between all the heads. You have one who's kind of really curious about what it's looking at. You have one that's the alpha leader. That's the middle one for sure. And then you have the one that's just angry all the time, and that's the one on the left. And so you have three different actors portraying those heads, and I thought that was kind of a really interesting thing to do.
Hold on. I'm kind of laughing because I'm also just kind of jealous because they put all this work into mocapping the monsters. Like, and each individual head was a person?
Yes.
What?
Yeah. So, and they are not credited. They are credited. The monsters are credited as themselves in the credits.
That's wild.
They are not. It's not credited work by any of them. None of them are names. They're not people that we know. They're not established. They're not established famous actors. I'm sure that they're established, but yeah, and so then you have Mothra's kind of maternal, very protective. There's a thing going on between her and Godzilla that was really cute. There's a really cute moment of her covering her wings to protect him at one point, and I really liked how they animated the eyes to be very expressive. They're big, blue, creepy, but they're also, again, really fierce and maternal. And then you have Rodan, who's this sort of basically the model of kind of a dragon meets a pterodactyl almost. And it comes out of a big volcano, which is freaking awesome. And so you have these different personalities. And then, of course, Godzilla is just totally like self-obsessed. He smirks a lot at what he's doing in the movie, and you can tell he's really proud of his work all throughout this movie, and it's awesome. And by the end, I mean, I won't give anything away, but he has reason to be. Let's just say I don't know how much of a chance Kong has, but I
will agree with that. If I had to put money on it right now, King Kong is done.
Yeah,
he is done. He's going to get wiped out quickly.
And I have to wonder, maybe there's going to be a draw, because I have to wonder, are they going to actually make a specific decision about who's going to win that fight? I don't understand, but whatever the case, it's freaking awesome. That's all. I'm just going with the bro term here. I just had so much fun. I went whoa like 14 different times during the action sequences, and that's pretty much all I can ask for. And the reason that, people are probably thinking, wow, Joel's losing it, he's going the simple route. Here's the thing. So when it comes to the human story, I think that you and I are almost on the same page. But what I meant was that it doesn't really matter whether these movies have a human story that's convincing in order to work. The reason that the 2014 movie worked so well, and the reason that it was on my top 10, is because it was a convincing piece of entertainment and monster mayhem, but there was also a convincing human story. At least for me. I found the humans in that movie to be a lot more interesting than they are here. No doubt about it. And I'm glad that they brought somebody like Ken Watanabe in, and all of that. And I like that how they kind of poke fun at his "let them fight" line from the first movie. They kind of poke fun and then reverse, the sort of the decision he's making there. And so yeah, it's certainly stronger, and that's why it's on my top 10. It's not just because there's awesome Godzilla with lightning coming out of his stomach and all of that. It's not just that. It's the fact that they were able to kind of look at the humans kind of being affected by it too, and also give them a fair perspective. Here, again, kind of a flatline story, but this these movies don't really need that in order to work, as long as the monster stuff is convincing. Now, that's why something like, for instance, a movie that probably we shouldn't even talk about, which is the 1998 version, didn't work at all, is because that stuff was not convincing. It was terribly shot and choreographed action, kind of poor visual effects even for the late 90s. Not one of Roland Emmerich's finest hours. I'm an Emmerich apologist, but not about that movie. And I thought that this, sort of is kind of like what that movie would have been if there had been really good action scenes and convincing CGI. It very much goes for kind of the middle of the pack in terms of what it's trying to accomplish. It very much, reflects all of the cheesiness of the early movies. I've only seen a couple of those, but it definitely seems like a sequel to 1954's Godzilla, not Godzilla itself. It's impossible to take some of this seriously, particularly the motivation, some of the dumb actions. They like to paint that Millie Bobby Brown's character is super smart. I question that, given her actions, but
she had character.
She had character, right? And that's the thing, is like they're very broad, basic characterizations. And for me, that's fine. It's what Independence Day was like.
It's honestly, again, it is serviceable. It's serviceable, it's like you said, if the monster fights are convincing enough, then the human element, if it is serviceable to go from fight scene to fight scene, then I'm fine with it. It's just,
I guess you weren't convinced by the fights either, and so
right.
That's certainly working against you there. And for me, I was convinced, and so for me, that's pretty much entirely where something like this rests. And so, yeah, for me, I'm going a lot higher. I'm going with a B minus for this. B minus or B, something like that. I had fun with this. I wouldn't mind watching it again. I have a feeling that the 4K transfer is going to be something to see, um, just simply because HDR will brighten up some of the imagery. Something like Dolby Vision, we probably both saw it in Dolby Vision, and that certainly allows for crispness of the image, but it doesn't really brighten up what's already kind of dark. So I'm excited to see what a 4K transfer does to something like this. But as is, I didn't have a problem with following the action. I thought that it was all pretty well handled, and well edited. The visual effects were cool. I liked the score a lot, and it was certainly a loud movie. But um, yeah, I don't know. I I went in, kind of with. I mean, I hate to say it, but I went in with lowered expectations. Maybe that worked in my favor. Usually, I don't try to let that happen. I usually just watch the movie. But even just watching the movie, I just had fun with what they were doing here with the action and all of that. And that's ultimately what convinced me that whenever I was walking out, I was like, "Huh, I like that." Clearly, I'm in the minority. I'm not saying everybody will. If people go to this movie and hate it, don't send me hate mail, please. But um, uh, yeah. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I guess yeah, I'm probably settling on a B.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
wouldn't go as far as to say like I hated it. It's just one of
right.
those things where I felt I was neutral on it, and I I'm still looking forward to Kong versus Godzilla. It's just this movie doesn't
See,
give me enough hope for that.
right. So I think that they're going to do even more than that. Honestly, I think that there's going to be, yeah, because we're probably right that Kong's done, and I think that maybe what they're doing with this monster universe is that's going to be the first showdown. So maybe he'll showdown against the giant freaking mammoth that we see here, which I really liked. I think it's a mammoth. Anyway, the thing with the giant tusks, which is just a larger version of what actually existed at one point. Um, we get a glimpse of some of these monsters here, and I like what we're seeing. So I'm excited. I think that it should be a fun time. And of course, I had this same reaction to Kong Skull Island. So that was another movie that I liked. It was before I started officially um, being co-host on this. I think that there were several episodes that I was on as a guest host before I officially came on, and that was one that I missed that you did on your own, and I would have been the person giving it a little bit of a higher grade than you at that time too. But yeah, I basically had sort of a similar reaction to both of those movies. I liked them less than Godzilla, a lot less, but I do like both of them, and I think that they got the mixture of kind of um, fine story framing device thing with the big loud action scenes that pretty much that's what you're here for, and I think that it delivered on that front. So I liked it quite a bit. Um,
And who knows? I might watch it again. I might have a different opinion because I will want to because you've taught me to do this, and I actually like doing this. Is when something is coming out and it's a part of a franchise or part of a continuing storyline. I like to watch the previous films and see if my thoughts have changed or are they worse, are they better? And so when Kong versus Godzilla comes out next year, I love to watch all three of these again just so I can see like, okay, I missed that the first time, or like this one's actually better than I thought, or this one's a little worse. Who knows? But yeah. So I think I'll settle on a C minus, and
okay,
I think it's because there is a lot of effort put into it, and it's not lazy. It's not lazy filmmaking. It's just more of how did those fights. How did you feel about them, and how did they affect you while you were watching them? And I because when all the reviews came out, people were just like, "Oh, the human element." Why? Why are we caring about that?
right.
This is a movie about a giant moth that glows up in the sky. Oh man, I gotta find out Millie Bobby Brown's story. I gotta really be convinced by her. No, you don't. So yeah. To be quite frank with you, she should have done another film project after Stranger Things. I don't think this was the best one to start with, but that's not my decision.
All right, folks. Well, the world has ended. We disagreed on a movie. I'm telling you, it doesn't happen very often. I don't know why that is, but
guys, I'm actually joking. I think it's an A+ film. I just did it for the radio.
Best movie of the decade. All right. So that's it for this one. We don't have any extra things for you after this. Chase had to do stuff. I have to go to work a little bit later. I'd like to rest before that happens. So anyway, that's it for this episode. It was a quick one. There wasn't much news. Hopefully there's a little more news next week when we review Dark Phoenix, which is the newest X-Men team-up movie. Big production for them. I've been watching through them. I only have Apocalypse to rewatch, so I'm excited. I've liked all of them, and I've liked all of the team-up movies, I should say. So I'm excited. You're seeing it on Monday. You're seeing it before me. Are you pretty excited?
I wasn't excited. Saw the trailers. Got slightly excited. I think I'm just a sucker. You guys know this. I'm a sucker for these movies. Not just the superhero genre, but X-Men has been very special to me ever since I saw the first one when I was 10 years old. So I'm looking forward to it, and I want to see how they end this incarnation of these characters, because this is the last one we're going to see of these actors and everything. They're going to start fresh, start anew, and it will be fun to hear the first. Well, it'll be fun to see the first X-Men film under Disney, but it'll also be fun to hear the first X-Men film drop an F-bomb for the first time under Disney. So I'm looking forward to that. 'Cause that's usually been their motif, is that like, all right, where's the F-bomb going to happen in X-Men franchise? My favorite one was First Class, when Magneto and Professor X went to the bar, and they're just like, "Hey, can we use your help?" And it was Wolverine. He was like, "F off." It was great. It was just a quick scene.
My favorite is actually in Days of Future Past when Charles returns it to him. Yeah. Whenever he comes. I think the very first movie, is the one that doesn't have an F word. It's because I don't remember one being in there. It's the second one when it starts kicking in. But yeah, they've had it pretty much in those since then. And I can't remember what it was in Apocalypse. I'll have to. I'm rewatching that sometime this week. And I'll have to. What
did you think about that one?
I like that one.
I do too. I don't know why people.
A lot of people crapped on
it.
Yeah.
It's not the best one, but like
a lot of people crapped on The Last Stand, which I'm a big fan of. So,
well, I told you when I rewatched them, I said The Last Stand, in hindsight, just as rewatching it, as recent as I did, I was like, it's fine. It's not the best out of the bunch, but it's whatever.
Yeah,
I'm not one of those people
I actually like it more than First Class, which I like. I think that we'll get into that later on, but yeah. We're not here to. We got to end the episode.
That was a little tease for you.
That was a good little tease. Yeah, I'll definitely go through my thoughts because I'll have watched them all again. I'll be able to go a little more in depth. There are more movies in this franchise than Godzilla, so more to talk about. And so we don't want to get into that now, but I do like some of the movies that a lot of people tend not to in that franchise. So, alrighty. Well, that's pretty much it. You can find my writing on joelonfilm.com. I also reviewed Rocketman, of course. Like that one. And I also caught up with this movie called The Changeover, which is a YA adaptation, but it's a thoughtful version of that phrase. I kind of like that too. So 3-star weekend at my website. All 3 movies that I reviewed got 3 stars. So there's that. And then you can follow me on Twitter, Real Joel Copling, on Letterboxd, J Copling. That's where I be. What about you?
Yes, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's @RealChaseLee. If you guys want to follow the podcast Twitter page, it's @RealMeAndPodcast. And of course, my YouTube channel, you guys, you can go over there if you want. But I do post all my reviews on the podcast form, or podcast, section on Spreaker, so you guys will get every single movie I review throughout the year that I get invites to or whatever. I just think you guys spend a lot of time listening to the actual show, so I'm gonna give you guys as much content as possible. And so if you guys missed the Ma review, you can listen to that. Should be the podcast previous to this one. And, of course, next week, I am seeing Dark Phoenix early, but that won't be in a mini review form because that's the main topic. And so no review on that like early, so it'll just be the normal episode like Joel said. But you guys will get The Secret Life of Pets 2 as a extra review next week from me.
I know it's all of your most anticipated review of his.
No, I haven't even seen the first one. I don't even know what to expect. So I am going to open up with my review of that movie, regardless of what I think, and just say, oh wow, Patton Oswalt was so good as the voice of the main character. He must be really great in the first one, and I don't want to mention
and just
the name
leave
of
it
the
at
other
that.
one. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, and of course, if you are listening to on CastBox, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, iTunes, please spread this around and let people know this is your favorite movie podcast to listen to. We really appreciate it. You guys, I don't know who's doing it, but there's been a huge spike in this show the past 3 episodes. I don't know where it's coming from. That's what's great about it. It's just from a random source. So thank you, random source. So yeah, and of course, look out for more extra reviews the following week. It's just going to be chock full of reviews this month. It's going to be fantastic. But yeah, Dark Phoenix next week for episode 280. This has been episode 279. I'm Chase. That is Joel over there. You guys have a great day, great night. Whenever you're listening to this, you guys are awesome. And, you know, if you are new to this episode, hopefully you can come back and listen to us talk about some more movies. We'll see you guys next week for another episode of Reel Me In: a Movie Podcast. See you later.
Bye.